Hello and good day. Welcome to the garage. So here we have something that is, and always will be, quite handy. I got this one at a second-hand store. And what is it? It's a battery charger. But this one is, it's funny, it's more advanced and yet it's more simple. A lot of the ones I find today, they do an awful lot of thinking and probably have microprocessors in them, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but they often then crap out and die and display error messages. This one, I don't know how old it is. It certainly is from, as it says on the front, Motomaster, which otherwise means Canadian Tire. But what's neat about this one, and it's especially good for me, is it has 6 volts, 12 volts, and it has, well, on the 6 volts, it only has a 6 amp setting. That's fine, that's dandy. Because you see, I have another motorcycle. It's a Yamaha Enduro, and it uses a 6 volt battery, so that's just dandy. But then also this has the 12 volt, 6 amp, and 2 amp settings. And if you need, to get things going in a hurry, 6 amps, of course, works better than 2. I have noticed that it's always kind of been funny when it starts, and that usually I press the starter once and it clicks. And then I take my thumb off, and then I think about it for maybe a second or two, and I push it again, and then the starter starts to turn, and all is well and good. But the last few times it's been a little more hesitant about starting and doing more clicking, which and it's not the clicking like I don't have enough power, it's just like, yeah, I hear you, but I'm not feeling like turning over at the moment, as in the starter. But then it eventually, of course, does. So anyway, I figured the battery might be down just a little bit, and because I'm not taking this out right away, I am going to set it on the 2 amp setting, which at this moment, looking at the little thing here, it says the battery's pretty full. If I were to switch this over to the 6 amp setting, suddenly the battery doesn't look quite as full as it once did. So I am charging. Now the other thing, I'm going to put this back to the 2 amp setting because that's all I want at this moment. Oh yes, the other thing, there I'm having an issue in that the front brake, which is a disc brake, a fairly original older style, it is having issues in that it stops dandy. It really, like, I have been able to, and I always do in the spring, give it, a little extra workout and do some emergency stops just to practice and all, and it'll lock up the front wheel just dandy, as it always has. The problem is, sometimes it is sticking. So it's kind of staying somewhat engaged. And it's never been really a terrible issue in the past, but the other day I thought, well, I'll just whip over to the store to get something, and I made it a few blocks away, and then I really had to goose it and play the clutch more so than usual, because I do have a higher gear on the front, so I have to play the clutch a little bit. But it was a lot more, and the front brake was just, it wasn't completely locked up tight, but it was really not workable. So I turned it off and sat for a few minutes and let things sort of settle down or cool off or whatever, and then I just rode straight home. So I have been looking on, yes, my golly, the internet, and there are, this disc on here, it's a 1 piston thing, it's fairly simple. So I'm suspecting that it can be rescued. Otherwise, I guess I will look for another, but mainly I have to take it apart and have a look. It may be that the pads are getting kind of thin and now the thing is sticking out a ways, more so than it has been, and it just doesn't want to go back. I don't know. There could be some corrosion going on in there. Anyway, somehow or another, I will get this brake issue resolved. But for the moment, I'm going to charge the battery, because I don't really have time today to really get into it, and when I get into it, I really want to get into it ready to sort out and face all eventualities. I'm not pleased that this means I might be off the road for a bit. But, you know, things happen. So for the moment, I will charge the battery. And I'm not sure, some of you have probably heard, but there's only one thing that I really added to this. By the way, this is a mostly a 1973 Harley Davidson 45 flathead Servi-Car that is being charged here. And it is mostly stock, not completely, but mostly. Like the back tail lenses, they were pretty bad when I got it, so I used ones of a similar size from Canadian Tire that fit perfectly, and I don't know. Anyway, so it's mostly stock, but not quite. But anyway, there is one liberty that I have taken, just one liberty, because my late friend Big John had such a thing on his trike, and others in the Trike Club way back when had such things on their trikes, and it just seemed like a good idea. So it took me a while to figure out where I could mount it and how I could, you know, make it all happy and not get in the way and all that. But anyway, here is my one indiscretion or liberty, or, you know, I don't know what to say. But anyway, here is what I added. And yes, that is a Nuga horn, and it is mounted underneath, and I put a horn button essentially on the frame, not far from the front of the box, so that as I'm riding it, I can just reach gently down behind my leg, and there the button is, so I can quickly access it. Now, that is not the only horn. It still has the horn underneath the headlight, and it works normally. I mean, basically this is pretty regular, pretty stock, pretty old, not fast. I did actually just recently, I had lost one of the little buttons that goes on the turn signals, which is annoying because it's hard to get your thumb on the little stem. So I did actually order some from the internet, and sometime they should arrive. I ordered 4, and I didn't realize they came in different lengths, but it makes sense because certainly you don't want to be pushing the starter instead of the turn signal, which could happen. And actually the starter is missing its button, but I never minded that because it did make it harder for me to reach it. That's on the right handlebar. On the left handlebar is the horn and the turn signal, and they have the buttons, and they're just fine. So soon I will have all the buttons. So for the moment, I'm going to leave this charging. I can tell that it's quite, that horn blast was mighty happy. So with the charger on there, good things are happening. I'm not sure if it would do louder if I put it on the 6 amp or not, but anyway, I'm pleased right now. Just charge the battery and begin to gather my accessories and wrenches and such to take apart the front brake caliper to see what's what and see what I need to do to make it happy, because it must be happy. Brakes, they are important. It is horrible when brakes break. Horrible, 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 horrible. Anyway, so we're going to leave this to charge, and I know that really watching a battery charge is much as interesting as watching the grass grow or watching the paint dry. So that is enough for today. Anyway, if you are in a second-hand store or a garage sale, you can often find battery chargers, and they usually work, and usually people at such places have plugs that you can test them out. Anyway, this one, when I saw it, I said, I must have it. And I have to get my old two-stroke bike out and going, but it will be very handy for charging the battery. It will. And of course it will work on cars and this motorcycle, which, by the way, I'm not sure most people would know this, but this old thing, it standardly, stock as can be, used a car battery which is stored underneath the fiberglass box in the back in a little carrier thing. So, quite suitable to charge up, and it gives it lots of, I guess, what they call cold cranking amps, which is kind of what I think I was missing lately. So, enough for now. We'll let this charge, and soon I will go at the front brake caliper. Thank you for being here. If you have any comments or questions or suggestions, I'm all ears, because, you know, I'm pretty handy. But I'm not a mechanic. And brakes kind of do scare me. So, who knows, I may end up replacing this, and then I'll have to get into taking it off and bleeding the brakes, which I have not done much of, but you know, I'm always eager to learn. So, that's about all I have to say about that. Have a lovely day. I hope you're out there riding somewhere, and that you're not running away from any dark clouds. Until we meet again, I'm signing off. Bye for now.